So if you're curious to know what data type a variable is, one of the flexible things about Python is that it will automatically type or cast a variable to the data type depending upon what you set it to. So the very fact that I set minute to a integer, minute became an integer. When I set minute 1 to a floating point value, its data type became float. And I can decide, or I can see, or I can show the data type of a variable by using the word type. If I say type, and whatever I put inside of here, it will show me the data type of. So let's see minute. What do I expect the data type of minute to be? Well, I expect it to be int because I set it to an int right there. Let's print the type of my second variable, minute 1. What data type do I expect it to be? Well, I set it to a floating point, so I would expect the data type to be a floating point. I had a greeting. I'm pretty sure that I had a greeting and a greeting 1, right? Let me come back up here. Greeting and greeting 1. Those are two other variables. Let's see what the type of greeting is. What data type do you think the variable called greeting is? Well, I would expect it to be a string. If I go back to my presentation, we can see that the different data types in Python, there are two different whole numbers. There's one floating point, one Boolean, and one string called str. And so when I run the program, I can see that greeting is a string. Now the last piece of utility information that we need to know before we start actually writing programs is, so what happens if I want to change the data type of a variable? Is it possible for me to change the data type of a variable? Let's say, for instance, that I wanted to print minute plus minute 1. Minute is an integer and minute 1 is a floating point. And when I use the plus sign between two numbers, I would expect that it would add them together. Is it possible that I could change the values or the data type of these two variables? I can do that using a command. And if let's say, for instance, that I wanted to change them both to strings, and then I wanted to add them together. What happens when I add strings together? It doesn't add them together, it actually concatenates them. So I can change them to strings just by using the keyword for the data type, str, and then I'm going to put minute inside of the parentheses. And then I'm going to add to that, and I'm going to also change minute 1 to a string. And we're going to see if we can print, if we can actually change minute and minute 1 to strings. And the reason why I want to do that is because when I use the plus sign between strings, it concatenates, not adds. So if I press the enter key, I can see that I actually did change minute and minute 1 into strings because minute contained 59. Minute 1 contained 59.9. There is the value of minute 59 concatenated to the value of minute 1. So I can actually change the data type of a variable. All I have to do is put the data type with the parentheses and then the value that I want to put in there. Now, what would happen if I were to try to force greeting to be a whole number, like an integer? What happens if I put greeting inside of here? Is it possible to change greeting to an integer? Well, I'm pretty sure that the variable greeting has strings stuff in it. I'm pretty sure it says this is a greeting or what a wonderful day. That cannot be converted to an integer, so when I run it, I would expect it to throw an error saying something along the lines of, I cannot change the value in greeting to an integer, therefore it is going to throw an error. So I'm going to comment this out so my program will run. I'm going to put a comment on it saying, cannot change a string to a number. I'm just going to put a comment on it. We'll run the program again so I can get rid of the error. And I'm going to leave that error there because as a training aid, to help me remember that I can't change greeting to an int because the value in greeting cannot be converted into an integer. All right, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to write a program. I'm pretty sure that we had some pseudocode that was about calculating a restaurant bill. So what I'd like to do is actually write the source code for that program. Because we are using Code Sculptor, which is a website, I cannot save this or export it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste the entire thing into Notepad or WordPad or Word, something like that, just into a simple text editor. I'm going to paste it in there, the entire program that I have written so far. Let me make sure that it's in there. There it is. I'm going to paste it in there, put some kind of a separator. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to call this Chapter 15.1 .txt, and then I'll save it. We'll put it in my downloads directory. I'm going to leave that open, and then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to delete everything in here, because what I would really like to do now is start with a fresh screen.